Hello, my beautiful friends, my fellow sparkly space blobs, sun blobs, goo in the cocoon, and emerging butterflies, everything in between and beyond. Welcome back to this space, to our moment to collect our energy, find that deep centering, find that well of kindness and warmth and vision that I know so many of us have, and feel really empowered to bring it with us through this eclipse season and well beyond, because we are talking about our second eclipse of this eclipse season, the partial solar eclipse in Aries. And you know how I like to work in this space if you've been here for a little while, because I love nothing more than taking apart an archetype and really looking at why cultures interpret those archetypes in various ways, and how we can get a little bit closer to each archetype and feel through it and work with it in a way that is going to be resonant and empowering. And Aries is just one of those archetypes that I love to do this with. Aries is so meaningful. It inspires me all of the time. And yet I think sometimes the superficial rendering of Aries can feel a little bit disconnected. I don't think it does justice to the vulnerability and the initiatory qualities of Aries, which inherently means that we are moving through mystery. I think we often don't think about Aries as connected to mystery because we think about it as this bold, expressive, opinionated, go-getter kind of energy. But because Aries represents that experience of being born into the world as an individual, experiencing individuality separate from the divine, separate from all other beings, experiencing that kind of individuality means that it is inherently deeply vulnerable. This part of ourselves, this aspect of experience, enjoys the excitement of having preferences and making personal decisions and experiencing that individuality, while also sometimes feeling disconnected from the larger web of weaving, sometimes really not understanding the mysterious process of walking a path. The very nature of being on the initiatory path is one that means that we do not know what is ahead. It wouldn't be an initiatory path if we already knew what it looked like. We already knew all of the details, and that's the inherent quality of Aries energy. So this second eclipse is really inviting us to accept that, one, we might have really big visions landing during this eclipse season, during this particular eclipse energy, during this very, very powerful Aries season, and that we may feel deeper in the mystery than ever before. And these two things go hand in hand. I think we often believe that if we know our preferences, we know our vision, we feel that flame alight in ourselves, that we will just then know all the answers to everything. But have you noticed that sometimes when we get that clarity, we get that hit, we have so many questions because we're like, how? When, what, why, how is it going to look? How am I going to do this? We might feel like we have just been landed in the deepest mystery of our lives in realizing a preference, in realizing something that we must initiate. And I think it's really important to understand this quality of Aries and work with it in this way, because this Aries solar eclipse is also going to be initiating us into a whole bunch of new waves of energy that involve Aries, that involve kind of the bigger collective process that we are moving through. And we're going to get into all of that today. I know for me, it has taken me several days to find words and language for this solar eclipse and to be able to speak. I have tried to sit down and do this chat several times, and it has been really interesting how much has been eluding me. And I think that's really representative of this process that is going on. There's a lot of like non-verbal, non-linear information coalescing behind the scenes. And it's always important to remember that that is happening while we might also be having a lot of vision. And this is a visionary solar eclipse. And I'm really excited to just dive into it with you. So let's get going. One of the major themes of this eclipse season is coming home to ourselves and finding a centering and reclaiming a set of tools that have been co-opted by culture and by the stress of the modern world, and coming into a really, really clear knowing. Another theme that keeps coming up is also that there is a lot of clarity in the mystery. And if we can hold that paradox within ourselves a little bit, that we can often kind of unlock new vision and ideas. And so we've been seeing that with our first eclipse, that total lunar eclipse in Virgo we just moved through. We were coming back home to our bodies, to our intuition, and kind of recovering from some of the stressors of like trying to control our way and look at all the details and try and make things okay by kind of obsessing over things, coming back into an empowered state with the Virgo archetype. And we're continuing that by really stripping back some of the layers of Aries and coming home to ourselves in that way. And this is such a powerful place to find homecoming and deeper understanding. I think, Aries is one of those archetypes. I love Aries energy. I love being around it. It inspires me. It makes me so happy. It just gives me life. I just love it so much. But a lot of times Aries gets stereotyped as being about being competitive and opinionated and always go, go, go. And of course, that's an element of experiencing individuality and the I amness of Aries, of course. However, Aries at its core, if we just take apart some of these layers and we really get back in touch with Aries, in this new moon moment, in this solar eclipse moment, we're going into a deeper level of Aries, which is not about the hero's journey. It's not about being the best. It's not about constantly striving for never failing and exceptionalism and all of those trappings of the persona that our culture loves to obsess over. In many places, though, that varies quite a bit culture to culture as far as what is considered a good person, a good performance. That's all unique to so many different cultures around the world. But if we strip all of that away, we come to this place of, like I said, this initiatory, curious being. It's like the awe of experiencing individuality. Every little preference, every little nudge in a new direction, every little moment of discovery about something that we realize we like or we prefer, liberating ourselves to really hear and notice that and feel free to possibly follow that. So much of the world right now, like the systems that exist, are very uncomfortable with the idea of people having peace with themselves, choosing for themselves how they want to express and live their lives. There is something deeply healing and connective about that. To truly connect with our preferences and the things that bring us to life would not involve, stepping on other people, denying anyone else their well-being. It's a very loving, beautiful, liberating space to be in, and so, so important right now in the world. And it's not about performing our way to exceptionalism, never failing, being the best, being on top. It's about really connecting to what feels just true and natural to each of us. And that is really the invitation of this solar eclipse. Hand in hand with that, this Aries energy and this eclipse energy means that many of us are going to be receiving brand new visions. And like kids who are just taking in every new sight and sound and figuring out how all of it works and learning at crazy speed and level, I think there can be a feeling of that childlike, whoa, this vision, this energy, what's coming in feels like so much information. I don't know what to do with it. I don't know the how, what, when, and where to put this energy. Once again, not only are we working with Aries, but this is a new moon and a solar eclipse, which means that we are opening our eyes to new vision. We are going through kind of a doorway, a portal, a gateway, and we're opening ourselves to new vision. And that means that that's a lot of information coming in. And that's really where I'm going to get to the core of this chat, honestly, because you think about this. I always like to say Aries is the most vulnerable energy because it is initiatory and it's stepping into the mystery, not knowing what's going to happen next. And that means that we really need to take care of ourselves and really, really be gentle during this solar eclipse. Do not feel like you need to solve everything or understand everything during this eclipse or even the next couple of weeks after it. Just allow yourself to be in that mysterious initiatory space. Allow different bits and bobs to come through. Allow new moments of clarity to come through, and don't feel that you have to push and make happen everything that's next. We are working with these huge waves of energy. And that means we are like really working with birthing new worlds as a collective and individually. And that is, just like kids who need a lot of sleep, we are going to need integration time. So that's like, if I could give you one thing, impart one message for this solar eclipse, it would be that all of that visionary processing and coming home is also happening in a pretty big context, which is very difficult to condense into this conversation. But if you are in this space for a little while, you know that we kind of peel apart each of these layers. But this eclipse is happening during Venus retrograde, during Mercury retrograde, and both Mercury and Venus are also crossing this threshold of the Aries and the Pisces. This second eclipse in this season is also happening just a couple of days before Neptune dips into Aries for the first time in a very, very long time. We're going to have a whole separate conversation about Neptune and Aries. But it's also, I think this solar eclipse is also an initiation into an entirely new journey with Neptune over many, many years to come. And so it's really fascinating. And right now, during this eclipse, we're going to have Venus and Neptune conjunct in Pisces around 29 degrees. We're going to have Mercury retrograde at 0 degrees of Aries. And we are just sitting right on this threshold. What a sensitive, delicate, vulnerable place to be. This kind of shifting perspective is really, really powerful in this feeling of releasing one world and opening to another. And we've already been experiencing this kind of energy in pretty big ways all year so far. This whole year has really had this quality of the threshold, the world between worlds, the birthing something new and the vulnerability of that, the messiness of that, the feeling like, the process of something releasing, dying, moving on is difficult in this context of death and rebirth. There is a tension to it. There are costs, there are offerings that are made up, and there's also this openness. And it's just important to remember all of those levels are going on as well while we're also working with eclipse energy. Once again, that might affect your physical, emotional, or energetic body. It is definitely affecting mine. Like, even just sitting here trying to put words to all of this has been really difficult and tricky, and I'm definitely going to have to lay down in a major way after we have this conversation. And I just want to remind us of that. And then I just want to tap in really quickly to the Neptune shifting into Aries and how this solar eclipse is connected to preparing us for that. Another element of Aries that there's so many ways I could talk about Aries, but because there is that side of the individuality and the I amness that can sometimes feel very hungry, very overwhelmed, that can sometimes feel like, how do I get my safety in this mystery? How do I deal with the vulnerability of existing? It's really important that we take some time to remember that we belong, and that we are a part of this great connective world. Aries at its best expression is an Aries that knows it has been birthed from that Piscean primordial sea. and that it never actually left the primordial sea at all, that it is still within the greatness of that connective web. And that as we come into this I amness, we come with all of those gifts. We come with all of the same connectivity, whether or not we can always see it or perceive it. Because one quality of Aries is that sometimes we can forget or have a difficult time seeing the connectiveness as we experience and focus on our individuality. And so the healthiest Aries expression is going to be one that feels safe and loved by the divine connective web. And I think that's really important here when kind of preparing for Neptune and Aries. Neptune and Aries is coming out of the waters of the Piscean vastness, the connectivity. And we can take all of the gifts we have learned from Neptune and Pisces and bring it into this new era with Aries. This solar eclipse is happening at a time when Aries is going to be a very present part of our energetic map, because we're going to be working with Neptune in Aries and Saturn in Aries in a little bit here in a couple more months. And so we are really preparing for entering into an expressive era that I think it's really important is informed by that sense of deep belonging, and that allowing true self-expression that is connective, that is community building, that is peaceful, that is loving, that is playful and maybe even has the competitive and the fiery side to it, but also feels like it's safe to also not always excel. It's safe to not always be hyper visible and having everything. That's part of the, I think, vulnerability and innocence of Aries, is also knowing that we don't need as much as we might think we need in order to just express ourselves and live a beautiful life. And just entering into that softness can be really, really helpful during this eclipse season and during this very, very powerful, intense time that we are living in. I think curiosity is going to be so important for this little window of time over the few days that we might be feeling the reverberation of this Aries solar eclipse. And just getting curious about, what are you noticing is calling your attention? What are you noticing is like hard to ignore? Maybe visions are coming in, ideas, maybe you're getting pulled to certain colors or songs or art, getting curious about what's wanting expression there. And also, just getting curious, like, how have your preferences changed? How has your experience of yourself changed? Who are you now? Who are you now? Not based on who you don't want to disappoint, on who you're worried will judge you for, wanting a change in life, or on who you've been in past seasons, or what you failed to do for yourself, for your community in past years. But like, who are you now? Without keeping score on yourself, without judging yourself, without trying to uphold who you think you need to be. That's a really core part of kind of this visionary initiation energy that is so powerful right now when it comes to working with Aries. It's a lot of information, but it's just having some curiosity, having fun. If you haven't checked out, we are doing this wild dreaming journey over on my Patreon with my wild dreamers, and we do all sorts of kind of surrealist art and nonverbal kind of creative processes to see what's trying to connect with us. It's really, really fun. And I have a practice for getting kind of in touch with the archetype that wants to be expressed through our lives. If you want to check that out, you can join at any time. It's super affordable, and I really make that a space full of soft landing and centering and clear energy that we all need right now. So I'd love to see you over there. I'm shuffling away here, feeling through this powerful time. I am telling you, I don't even know how I am putting words to things at the moment. Like, it is like a magic trick. I feel like that's how I'm feeling right now. Ace of Cups. Okay. I am here for it. I am here for an Ace of Cups moment. There is that quality, and actually, I just got goosebumps because Ace of Cups, the hand coming out of heaven. This to me is the bridge between Pisces, Aries right here. perfectly expressed in the initiation and the watery quality of knowing that anything we express as individuals here is coming from that connective field, so we can relax. We don't have to perform our way into that. A card wanted to fall out. Eight of Swords. You know me. If you've been here for any amount of time, you know I love it. And another card wanted to come out, and it's Two of Swords. This is so perfect. And I know some of you are going to be like, oh man, Sarah, really? Really? We're going to work with the blindfolded figures in tarot today. But that is so eclipse energy. That is so the eclipse energetics, because like I was just saying, you get all this information coming through your system. It's like, and then it's like, I don't know what to do with that. I cannot see. You might feel foggier than ever. You might feel more disoriented than ever. However, that doesn't necessarily mean you're more disoriented than ever. It doesn't necessarily mean you don't know what's going on. And this is the process. This is the process of this eclipse season. A huge, clear download. A huge, clear sense of, aha, I know something new is being born. I know how important this is. I can see how the pieces are going to shift. I can see that newness. And then a little bit of not knowing how to move, a little bit of fog, of mystery coming in. Once again, if you initiate a new path, you are no longer in familiar territory. You are no longer replicating the same old story. So that means by nature, you are having to find your way. By its very nature, you're having to find your way. And that means that you don't know your way. And that means that you are having to look for clues and look inside and take your time and be discerning in order to navigate it, right? And that's what these figures are all about. And I've always said, for all these years I've been working in this work, which has been a long time. It's been a majority of my life at this point. The Eight of Swords has represented that time right before huge breakthrough and opening. And the same for the Two of Swords to some extent. The Two of Swords is about taking our time to listen to our intuition, taking our time to not rush to conclusions, but to allow the discernment to land in our bodies. Both of these figures will make movement. They are on their way to doing just that. They have a lot of ingredients. They have a lot of information coming in, and they are processing it and preparing for the next phase. And I think as a culture, there is a resistance to this, as it is lazy, or you're not doing enough, or it's not visionary enough, or you're not trying hard enough. And I want to kind of flip that on its head, because for me, when I see those two cards, I'm having full body goosebumps right now. I'm telling you, I know that something really important is coalescing. And I know that ingredients are coming in that are going to change everything for the better. Let's be clear. And I think right now, just in general, this is a process we're working on. Like I said, like having to hold the paradox that clarity is waiting in the mystery. Clarity is waiting in the fog. And as we stop resisting that, things start happening. And also just huge amounts of information require this kind of work. I just have to say, like, I don't know what world we think we're going to be living in, where you get a whole bunch of new information and then you just bop along like it's a typical day. That's not happening. And I think it's just a reminder of the energetic process. What did you see when those cards showed up? I would be really, really, really curious to hear. Oh my goodness. And I really want to hear about how you're feeling this eclipse season, how you've been working with these archetypes, how you've been working with this threshold energy. Do you want me to chat about the Pisces Aries threshold more? Just like have a conversation about that, because there's so much moving across it right now. It can sometimes just feel like it's a deep ongoing process. It can feel a little overwhelming. I'd be happy to kind of chat through that a little bit more. Let me know. And also, I'd love to see you over on our Patreon. Like I said, I am going to be having a practice over there for this solar eclipse, and it's going to be about feeding any parts of ourselves that are feeling overwhelmed, vulnerable, overextended, and really, really nourishing that so we can get into our deep preferences and knowings and allow that information to land. It's going to be really soft, really nourishing practice, as well as all of our wild dreaming that we're going to be doing over there. So I'd love to see you in that space. Take care of yourselves. Let me know how you're feeling through this. I will see you back here very soon. We are going to talk Neptune and Aries. It's a big topic and we got to get into it. So I will see you back here very, very soon. Have a beautiful second eclipse during this powerful eclipse season.